Good? Alright, Bismillah. Alright, we have a lot of questions. A lot of questions, okay? And some of them are very interesting, to say the least. So keep them coming. Okay, let's see. The first question is this. What does a girl do when pressured by today's beauty standards? Okay, wow. Thanks for the first easy question, underhanded question. So, Bismillah. Guys, you ready to hear this one? Alright. So what does a girl do when pressured by today's beauty standards? There's no doubt that there's a lot of that pressure on them right now. And what you can do, the first thing you have to do, right, it's all about your own confidence. So if you have confidence, hey guys, yeah. If you have confidence that who you are, you're enough, that you don't need to prove who you are to someone else, that goes a long way. So sometimes just, working on yourself, being comfortable in your skin. We all have flaws. We all have things about us. And same thing with the guys. I mean, with the girls, it's a lot more pressure, but the guys have the pressure too, to have the abs, to do whatever it is. And so this pressure, like how you look, it's obviously through social media, it's a lot more. So the first thing you need to know is the way you are, you're good enough. You're okay the way you are. That's the first thing, so accept yourself. The second thing is, you don't necessarily need to say, I'm not going to have any beauty standards whatsoever. That's not what Islam is even saying. It's just saying that whatever you want to do, that is reasonable for yourself. And don't make it for the intention of pleasing other people. Make it for the intention of being presentable for yourself, thanking Allah for the blessings that you have, of looking good, of having health, of having the blessings of that. I think that's the best way to handle beauty standards. The third thing is, whatever you're plugged into on this is what's going to influence you, right? That's why they're called influencers, obviously. So whatever you guys are watching, so if you're watching a lot of stuff about beauty routines and beauty standards, don't be surprised if that's going to be what's going to stress you out, what's going to be on your mind. Rather, I would say make friends with and follow people who make you feel like the way you are is good enough. I'm not saying everyone has to go to no filter mode, I'm not saying that. Even no filter is still lots of makeup, But the point I'm saying is, you, the way you are, accept yourself, your own friends will love you, somebody who is attracted to you and falls in love with you will love you the way that you are, right? So I think that's the first thing, is just be real with yourself. And make it normal among each other to just be real and be ourselves, and not have fake standards define how we interact with each other. So, okay, anyone have any input that they want to put in for this? I don't mind opening the floor to you guys too, but I can't see you. Anyone want to add to that? Resisting beauty standards? Any advices? I don't mind opening up the floor. Do we have an extra mic actually? Maybe we could run it to any audience members. Okay, what do we do when someone asks us to respect their pronouns? That's a very, very tough question. That's a very, very tough question. Why? Because I can say one thing from a moral standpoint about what we believe as Muslims, and we do definitely believe as Muslims that in normative Islam, that there are two genders, right? That's something that I can't change it, you can't change it. That doesn't mean that we don't disrespect other people, or that we're not tolerant of other people, their beliefs, and what they feel. But when someone asks us to respect their pronouns, and if you feel uncomfortable in addressing someone with a pronoun that you don't think you're comfortable with because it crosses your own religious beliefs, then perhaps the best thing to do is address that person by their name. And that way, neither do they impose their pronouns on you, nor do you impose your view on them and offend them. And I have not found in this issue an easier way to get about it, but just remember, as soon as you get in the workforce, or as soon as you get into other situations where you're in an official situation, there'll be a lot more pressure. And we're still, as a Muslim community, scholars are talking about it, imams and leaders are talking about it, and not just in the Muslim community, you have a lot of people as well in the States, you have a lot of people from different faith groups, from traditional backgrounds who believe in traditional family values. It's not an issue that they've really settled in society. So it's something that I would say either avoid clashing with people, avoid offending people, but stand up for what you believe. Don't change that, but try to come across in a way that doesn't offend another person. Next question is it all right to sell lottery tickets and promote gambling if I give a donut to them afterwards for entry? That makes sense? Is it all right to sell lottery tickets and promote gambling if I give a donut to them afterwards for entry? So here's the thing, right? Here's the question. We have to ask ourselves, who do we think we're fooling? Who do we think we're fooling? You could do that. I mean, you could engage in so many things by making a little trick and then making it look simple. But in the end, do we really think we're fooling Allah? That Allah doesn't know what we're trying to do. So Allah tells us not to do certain things because it's for our own benefit and for the benefit of society. So giving someone a donut is not necessarily going to hide what it is you're trying to do, right? So I would say look at the spirit. Don't make Islam about the letter of the law. Like technically I'm following the rule, so can I just do what I want? If that's what your Islam is going to be about, you're always going to try to circumvent, and then you lose the spiritual value of why we do things. You have right? Yes? Do you guys want to ask the questions too? Do you want to have a reading? Okay, no problem. I realize I get bored of hearing my voice all the time. So yeah, that's what I would say. Another question, how can we stop gossiping? Backbiting and gossiping. The best way to stop gossiping is to remember that this is something that Allah hates, right? That Allah says in the Quran that وَلَا تَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Do not backbite one another. أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Would any of you like to eat the dead flesh of his own brother? You would hate that. And so don't do that. So Allah likens backbiting to eating human flesh. Obviously not the same thing, but it's to give you an imagery that why is it eating a dead person's flesh? Because that person is not there to defend themselves. And so that's how when you hear bad things about each other, you should say, oh man, and stop other people from doing it too. So if someone's backbiting, all you have to say is, yo man, don't backbite about that person. Yo man, let's change the topic. Or just say, anyways, let's talk about something else. And if you can do that enough, it's really hard to stop backbiting, especially if you're in certain communities. Like growing up culturally is very difficult because everybody's backbiting everybody. But I found that if you just take a second and ask Allah to make you strong, and then just say, yo man, let's not backbite. Next time, people know, oh, this girl's a little strict on that stuff, so they actually don't do that around you. Next question. I was trying to go rapid fire through them. Sometimes I struggle with believing in Allah and Islam. What should I do? Number one, make your Deen, your faith, about the loving Allah and His Prophet. Don't make it about a list of things that you have to check off and do. And don't make it about polemics and debates. Don't get your Islam from YouTube, let alone like TikTok, And the other thing is, be easy on yourself. You're allowed to have questions. You're allowed to feel sometimes you have a little doubt. Find a mentor. If any of you guys ever need help, I'm on Instagram. I do Q&A pretty much many Thursdays. Hit me up. Ask me a question, or ask someone else, another imam in your community. Don't think that just because you have a doubt in your heart that you're not a Muslim. No, you are a Muslim. But it's a journey. Next question is, how young is too young to get married? If it's halal in your choice. What do you guys think? Let me ask you this. 20? I heard 20? 16? Alright, this is fun. This is actually like, alright, let me see a show of hands if you guys think 18 is too young to get married. Alright, let me see a show of hands if you guys think 20 is too young to get married. Alright, fine, what about older? It's like 20, 22? 24? Alright. Alright, you guys know how old I was when I got married? Take a wild guess. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Okay, and I'm being very real with you guys. All right, give me a second. Since you brought up the marriage topic, which is like my favorite topic in the world, I'll tell you something. And now, if your parents hear this, they're gonna kill me. Okay, so thank God your parents are here. They said, what are you telling our kids to do? Right? I met my wife, Frosh Week of UTSC. I was 17 years old, she was 18. Okay? I became Muslim. I learned about Islam, like I was inspired to learn about Islam through her. Okay? Because she came from a practicing family. She had values. And she had certain things that opened up my heart to learn about Islam. And when I became Muslim, separate from her, I became Muslim. And I realized someone said to me, you can't date in Islam. So I was like, oh. Okay, I didn't know that. So it took us some time, but eventually I mustered up the courage and the money to fly down to see her dad, and I proposed to her dad, and I was 18. And I was 18, I know it's kind of weird, and her dad's like, who is this little kid? Who is this guy? I couldn't even grow a beard. And so he asked me, first thing he said, what do you want to become? Like, what are you going to do? And I said, doctor. Because I was in life sciences at UTSC. So I thought, like every brown guy, I'm supposed to become a doctor. So even though I was just in first year, I just said doctor. He got impressed. All right, cool. I didn't become a doctor, as you can see, I'm an imam, right? Don't try that at home, kid. Your parents are going to kill you. I'm just kidding. And then he said, how do I know that you might not turn back when you became Muslim? I said, no, I became Muslim because I believe you, not because of your daughter. And whether she's here or not, I still want to be Muslim because I believe it. And alhamdulillah, you'll be surprised. You might think it's going to be very tough. I'm not saying you guys have to do this, but I felt that was the right thing to do, and I was 18 when I done it, alhamdulillah. So we went through university, and we were married, but we had family and parental support. That's important, because if I didn't have that, from her side, her parents' side, then it would have been very difficult. So that answers the question as to when is too young to get married. As long as you're legal, I think it's all good. That's my answer. But you have to be responsible and mature enough to handle it. If you're not, sorry, you guys discussing marriage issue? I'll wait for you guys to finish talking about it. Let me know what you guys decide. Alhamdulillah. Alright, so that's my story about getting married in a nutshell. What is considered modest other than hijab? Is jilbab or baggy clothes permissible as well? Look, people think hijab is just a cloth that you put on your head. In reality, modesty is way beyond that, right? It's like way deeper than that. Modesty applies to guys as well, okay? Modesty applies to guys as well. As you can see, I'm pretty much wearing a dress, okay? From Western standards. But modesty is something, I'm covering my head too. I'm not saying you have to do that as a guy, but it's something where modesty starts from inside here. And it's not just in your clothes. Modesty is not doing something that is wrong, or not. You don't want to do something that is against what Allah tells us to do. So it's a state of heart. Modesty deals with how you speak to people. Modesty deals with how you interact with people. So when it comes to your clothes as well, okay, you don't have to wear a jilbab. Some scholars may say that, but the point is that you're wearing clothes that are, comfortable. And you can dress according to your own culture. So if you're a Canadian culture, if you want to wear a jilbab or a abaya or a shalwar kameez, that's totally cool. If you want to dress in pants and top or whatever, the whole point is for men and women, we try not to show like the geography of the body, basically. So the more printed out it is, then the less technically modest it is, right? How do we deal with a crush at school in a halal manner? The crush is Muslim as well, by the way. Well, I told you how I dealt with my crushes, right? I told you how I dealt with my crushes. So look, a crush Everyone's gonna have a crush, right? It's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's like an immune response, you know? It's healthy, it's fine, it's normal to like someone. I know you guys think each other has cooties right now, I'm just kidding. But in reality, how do you deal with a crush? You just be a respectable person. You have to have chivalry. If you're a guy, right? Have chivalry. What does that mean? Behave like a gentleman. Behave like a gentleman. Sometimes when guys, when they have a crush on a girl, they actually start to make fun of her as a kind of way of offsetting that. Sometimes girls as well do that. Am I right or wrong? Yeah, come on, you guys know it. You guys know. So to deal with it, you have to offset it. Don't worry about that. Just be comfortable with who you are, and just understand, if there's somebody in front of you that I'm attracted to, okay? It's not their fault, and it's not even my fault that I have feelings. But what I am responsible for is how I act on those feelings. So behave like a respectable person, keep your head up, and behave normally. Someone who's attractive is still a human being. Treat them normally. So it doesn't mean that just because you have a crush, you're sinning. It's how you deal with that person. If you behave with everybody decently, they'll probably like you a little more, so you'll be lucky. But and when the time comes, if you really like somebody, we'll talk about that in the next chapter. I really want to get rid of listening to music, but wherever I go, someone is playing it. Yeah, music is not going to go away. Before I became Muslim, I had 3 different types of guitars. I used to play tablas as well. I used to think I was a cross between Brian Adams and Shaykh Khan. So yeah, you can see how I got to go. I'm just kidding. But I understand music is something that is a very big temptation. There's no doubt. And after 16 years of studying Islam abroad, okay, I was abroad since 2005 to about 2021, and I came to the conclusion personally, if it's negative music, if it's something that brings you towards haram and away from Deen, that's something that definitely you want to get out. You want to try to wean out of your life. But it takes time. It takes willpower, and you have to put other things in its place. But you don't think up to now, I walk through a grocery store, or I'm in a car and someone else is playing some Tupac. You guys know what Tupac is? If someone's playing something, I don't hear it. I don't also reminisce and think back to those days. I do. It doesn't go away. Even 20 years, 30 years later, it's not going to go away. But really, it's not a point of whether it attracts you or not. It's do you actively pay attention to that and let that influence you? So I think that a good alternative, machine music, and there is a lot of Islamic spiritual music that's kind of in the middle. And I think that's a good middle ground for people to kind of transition. So I'm actually quite supportive of that. That's why I wrote a song, I've written a number of songs. So I'm very kind of pro-Islamic spiritual machine and music. I think it's a good alternative for youth. As a Muslim woman, do you have to have kids? No, you don't have to have kids. I have a bad habit of swearing too much. I want to lessen this and eventually stop. How should I start to lessen it? Find yourself every time you do what you don't want to do. And this goes for any habit. This goes for any habit. Even the secret habit, okay? If you're trying to quit something, find yourself and pay a certain amount of money every single time you do it, or tell yourself, okay, I'm going to say, I'm not going to have something I like today. I'm not going to have sugar today. I'm not going to have coffee today. And pretty soon your own nafs, your ego, will start to tell you, hey man, don't do it, don't swear. Don't do that. And that's one of the ways I found is good to get rid of your bad habits by creating like a type of a system to control that. Okay, any questions from the floor? So I'm not just reading it up. We have a mic. Anybody want to put up their hand and ask a question? If it's not too personal to you guys? No, if you guys have any questions, there's another mic. Just so I'm not the only one talking. Yeah, can you run a mic down to someone? Can we get a runner? Sorry, I don't. Maybe we can have a runner there too. We'll deal with some of the anonymous questions. Anybody else? Just let me know how to time it.
So I just want to ask that if you want to adopt a kid, then what's the best way to go about raising them as a Muslim? If you're adopting a kid who's already here.
Gosh, all these questions that are coming are so personal. I've long thought about adoption as well, adopting a child. It's something that's very personal to me as well. And this is the strange thing. There is a misconception that Islam does not allow adoption. Have you heard that? Have you heard that being said before? Or good you haven't heard of it? Because there's a misconception in the Muslim community. It's something where, adopting a child, as long as you don't forge their lineage, that's what Islam has a problem with. But otherwise, adoption is a very, very virtuous thing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, himself was an orphan who was taken in by his uncle and raised. So as long as if you legally do that when you get older, there's a whole process that they go through, and you just raise the child as your own, and eventually that's how they grow up as a Muslim. Does that answer the question? All right, other questions from the floor? You got a question over here on the other side. There's.
We have 7 minutes.
What's that? 7 minutes? Okay. I'm going to try to do rapid fire questions. Yeah. Yo. What's up?
What's your bench press PR?
Oh, come on, guys. Look at me, guys. What do you think my bench press is going to be? Really?
I'm just saying.
No, I was a lover, not a fighter. Okay, it just stayed like that. So for all the skinny brown guys out there, right? Yeah, I know. High school is tough for me. Okay, high school is tough for me. So.
So you don't work out?
What's that?
You don't work out?
I actually made a resolution to work out. So now you reminded me of it.
I'll make dua for you, don't worry.
Thank you, bro. Make dua that I can get some good gains, alright?
Inshallah.
Thanks, bro. Thanks. That's what you call brotherhood, right? Looking out for each other, making sure they work out. MashaAllah. Yeah, definitely, guys. Don't do it like me and not work out for many years, because then you're gonna start getting out of shape. Working out is awesome, especially at this age. One of the things Muslims do, I think, really well, is work out to dissipate the pressure of whatever frustration they're going through in peer pressure and whatever society is giving. Find a lot of guys in the gym, find a lot of guys into MMA. Who likes MMA? You guys like MMA? No, you don't? Maybe. Yeah, that's why you see a lot of guys into that stuff. But it's a good kind of dissipation of energy. Okay, the next question here we have, is niqab mandatory? No, it is not. There are different opinions, and it's not mandatory. Is half niqab okay? Yes, half niqab is fine, because it's whatever you want to do. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you know if you should wait and leave something to the qadr of Allah, or if you should keep making dua for what you want?
That's a good question. As long as there's a possibility of something that you think you should be trying for, then keep making dua for it if you think it's best for you. That's why you make istikhara, to ask Allah what's best for you. Once it becomes clear that this is not what's good for you, or it's not what's going to happen, then at that point it's better to accept fate and accept what's happening. Does that make sense? Basically, when does your dua become part of your effort, and when does it become complaining that something's not happening? See the difference? So, yeah. Okay, we have probably time for maybe just 1 or 2 more questions. Any other questions from the floor? What's the best way to make your parents see eye to eye with you without arguments with cultural beliefs get in the way? The best thing you can do is talk to them gently, but try to loop in someone they respect who understands you to speak to them. Whether it's like an older cousin or uncle or aunt or even an imam or someone. I found parents often listen to people at their level or someone they respect. Right? So I think that's one of the best ways to do it. Yeah, question right there?
Assalamu alaikum. What is the best way to advise a sister when you see them do something wrong but you don't want to disrespect her?
Yeah, the best thing to do, a lot of times people advise about doing something wrong, but they do it from a place of pride. So like, I'm better than you. Now when you tell somebody that you're doing something wrong, they often get self-conscious, right? Or you think you're better than me. So I think the best way to tell someone when they're doing something wrong is to first make dua in your heart and have really sincere concern. And if you're not close to them, if you're not friends with them, if you haven't built a rapport with them, it's going to come across like you're judging. And then maybe talk about that thing in a general way before saying you are doing this. Talk about it in general. Or say, look, I struggle with this too. Hey, talk to them in private, not in public. So in public you're shaming somebody, that's not right. Take them in private, really think about it. Show them you have pain in your heart for what they're doing. So they know that you're sincere and genuine. And to tell them, have a hamburger paragraph in English, give them some praise, good things that they're doing. Mashallah, you're such a good sister, you've been such a good friend, and I know that you're really trying. There's just one thing I was trying to advise you, and it's really, I didn't know what to say, so forgive me, and then finish, and then say it quickly, and then end with it. And don't wait for them to have to defend themselves or answer to you. Just put your piece in. But if you don't develop relationships with people, you have no right to tell them anything. That's how people think. So be good with people, right? Okay, last question. Last two questions. Depending on time. I can stay here all night, guys, to you. If you guys have a question? Yeah, you can just grab it and start talking, because I can't see you.
How do you leave somebody for the sake of Allah and put all that trust that you guys may or may not reunite again?
How do you meet somebody? Leave somebody for the sake of Allah. You mean like leave somebody as in somebody you like, or somebody like a friend, or? You're gonna have to talk in the mic.
Haram relationship.
That's a good question. So I have a video on this. I have a reel on this if you go on TikTok or Instagram. Honestly, one of the best things we have as Muslims, I think it's the most romantic thing. I'm not just talking about girls, I'm talking about guys too. But one of the most romantic things we have is loving someone for the sake of Allah. You can fall in love with somebody, but you love Allah more. And because you love Allah more, you would not want the person that you like to do something haram for your sake, because that's for your ego, that's selfish. So you don't love someone truly or like someone if you want them to do haram with you. And this is why you can have those feelings and that person has that. Now, if it's haram and you have to part, then the best thing you have to know is that if that person is written for you to be with, and if that person is the right person, Allah will bring that person back into your life. And that's the way to tell. If you stop doing haram and you part with them for the sake of Allah, then does it go down in a bad way, or is it something that is it something that brings about a better result in you? That's when you know that there might be potential in this. Does that make sense? So bad relationships are not just bad for your feelings, they're bad for your deen, they're bad for your life, they're bad for your stress, everything. So that's why it's like, make it for Allah, and when you part, Allah will give you something better. Nobody walks away from a relationship that's not good for them, except Allah will give them something better, because they did it for Allah. But they have to realize that, because you think this is going to be the one and the person. And when you get married finally, you're going to like look back at your old things and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So don't go through all that regret if you can. Save yourself from that, and love Allah first. That's my advice. Alright, any other questions?
Right here?
Yeah.
How do you deal with like social pressures? Here. Hello?
Okay. Sorry, I feel bad. Like, do you guys have the brothers like have their hands up? Yeah. Next we're gonna go to the brothers. Yeah. Go ahead.
So how do you deal with like social pressures and anxiety and like choosing like your life, your teenage life, and like fitting in against Islam? How do you choose like Islam instead?
Yeah. You know what? This is a struggle, and the reality is, like I said, even the Sahaba had that struggle. And the one thing you have to do is make your deen about loving Allah very, very closely. Not about everything else can come after. Love Allah. And so when you do that, whenever you're faced with a decision.
Hello?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. We'll finish answering this. Whenever you're faced with a decision, you will automatically have a boost. But if you're just doing it because your identity is Muslim, my parents are Muslim, I'm Pakistani or Indian, if that's why you can't do something, it'll always be hard to resist it. If you tie your heart to Allah, you have love pulling you towards the right thing. It's much easier to do that than just say, it's haram, I can't do it. Does that make sense? Sister? Let me just take a walk down here now. Do they have a mic? You guys have a mic, alright. I just want to be with you guys. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Let me see who I'm talking to. Go ahead. What's the question?
What happens if I fall in love with a Shia?
Listen, you can fall in love with whoever you want, but who you actually get with should only be the one who takes you closer to Allah. Just remember that. You're not in control of your heart, but you are in control of every other part of your body, okay? So basically, you fall in love with somebody, you have to ask, is there an alignment with your deen? And then can you act in a way that is pleasing to Allah? And that's the most practical advice I can give you. No worries.
Alright, it's kind of off topic, but like Ramadan's coming up, right? How do I make my door pakka for Tarawih?